In 1990, Selena's father, Abraham Quintanilla Jr., openly called Chris Perez a cancer and removed him from the band. What followed was not a clean break or a simple family disagreement. Instead, it became 2 years filled with secrecy, emotional strain, and risk. Selena and Chris continued seeing each other in secret, meeting quietly whenever they could, stealing moments together in tour bus bathrooms and hidden corners, always aware that discovery could cost them everything. Their relationship grew under pressure, and when they finally married, it happened in a rush that lasted less than 10 minutes. For decades after Selena's death, Chris stayed mostly silent about what really happened during those years. But in March 2025, something shifted. He finally spoke about the letters Selena wrote to him, about the loss that never stopped hurting, and about how he still feels her presence when making important decisions. What he revealed painted a much darker and heavier picture than most people ever expected. Selena Quintanilla was born on April 16, 1971, at Freeport Community Hospital in Lake Jackson, Texas. She was the youngest of 3 children in a family that was already struggling to survive. Her father, Abraham, loved music deeply, but love did not pay bills. Her mother, Marcella, worked wherever she could find work. Their home was full of love, but money was always short, and every month felt uncertain. As the late 1970s and early 1980s arrived, things became worse. The oil recession hit their area hard, and jobs that once felt stable disappeared almost overnight. The family's restaurant, Papagayo, failed in 1981, and suddenly survival became the main goal. Welfare checks and food stamps became part of daily life. Moving from place to place became normal. These were not hopeful moves toward something better, but rushed decisions made because staying where they were was no longer possible. In the middle of all this stress, something unexpected appeared. Selena's voice began to show itself when she was around 3 years old. She would sing along in the car, copying songs she heard on the radio, including Dolly Parton's music. When Abraham heard her, he froze. It was not just cute child singing. Her pitch was right. Her timing was right. It sounded unnatural for someone so young. That moment changed everything inside the family. For the first time in a long while, Abraham did not just see another difficult year ahead. He saw an opportunity. Their garage became a practice room. It was small, plain, and far from professional, but it was what they had. Selena practiced with her brother AB and her sister Suzette, and music slowly replaced silence in their lives. Tejano music became the heart of their efforts. It was a blend of Mexican roots mixed with country and pop influences, and Selena stood out almost immediately. She did not sound like someone learning. She sounded like someone who belonged. By the time she was 9 years old, she became the lead singer of Selena y Los Dinos. That detail matters because it shows how early responsibility and pressure entered her life. Childhood did not disappear, but it was squeezed tightly between rehearsals, performances, and the family's need to earn money. They played weddings, fairs, and small venues where payment was never guaranteed and crowds could be harsh. Still, Abraham pushed forward because he believed music was their way out. The family's financial struggles soon turned into serious consequences. In 1979, they were evicted from their home in Lake Jackson after bankruptcy linked to the same recession pressures affecting the area. They moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, but it did not feel like a fresh beginning. It felt like starting over with fewer comforts. Abraham took full control of the plan and leaned even harder into music as their path forward. To keep the band moving, he pulled Selena, AB, and Suzette out of public school and switched them to homeschooling. The routine was strict and demanding. Their world became smaller. Days were filled with long rehearsals in a run-down garage and performances anywhere they could find them, from restaurants to street corners to community events. It was not glamorous. It was exhausting work. Religion added another layer to Selena's life. She was raised as a Jehovah's Witness, where rules are taken seriously. Certain holidays were not celebrated. Many school activities were avoided. This made her life feel even more separate from other kids her age. Music became not just work, but also her social world. Abraham maintained tight control, and some accounts describe practice sessions lasting up to 8 hours a day, repeating songs again and again until they were perfect. Even with this discipline, Selena still experienced fear. One story says she had stage fright at age 5 during a local talent show. What matters is that she did not quit. She learned early that fear was something to move through, not run from. For years, the family depended on welfare and food stamps while chasing success. There is a story that Abraham sold instruments just to buy Selena her first microphone, a Vega model. That microphone became a symbol, not just of music, but of choice. They were choosing this path even when it hurt. Selena later spoke about those sacrifices as moments when music felt like it saved them from poverty. When you have almost nothing, one working microphone can feel like hope. The early shows were not just small, they were often painful. In 1981, when Selena was about 10, the band played a paid show at Chantilly Lace in Corpus Christi and earned only $50. Even that night came with humiliation. Some people booed Selena for being a girl, because Tejano music was dominated by male singers. Abraham reportedly threatened to pull the band if the crowd did not accept her. Rejection followed them to other venues as well, sometimes tied to sexism, sometimes to racism. Some crowds even threw food. These experiences were humiliating, but they also taught Selena that she had to earn every audience. By 1982, touring became constant. The family lived in a worn-down house and traveled in a borrowed van, sometimes driving hundreds of miles a day. Selena was still very young, yet she performed bilingual covers and even sang songs by artists like Kiss and Donna Summer, which was unusual in the Tejano scene. She had no formal training, just raw talent, repetition, and a family that refused to quit. With that pace, tension was unavoidable. By 1983, arguments between Selena and AB about creative choices started to happen. Their mother often stepped in to calm things down. When music is the family's only income, every disagreement feels dangerous. In 1984, they self-released their first album on cassette and sold about 500 copies door-to-door at fairs. That success brought new problems, including bootlegging and stolen royalties. Even small success could be taken away quickly when you had no power. Around this time, Selena's image became another source of conflict. As she entered her teenage years, Abraham wanted her to look innocent, while Selena wanted to express herself. There were arguments over makeup and appearance, reflecting a deeper struggle over control as Selena grew older. The music industry was not kind either. Selena signed with Freddie Records while still very young, and promotion was weak. Some stories claim Abraham paid DJs to play her music, not because he wanted to cheat the system, but because he believed no one would give them a fair chance. At the same time, Selena was learning Spanish on the job. She spoke mostly English at home and learned Spanish by listening and repeating. That kind of learning is difficult because the audience does not care that you are learning. They only react to what they hear. A major turning point came in February 1986 at the Tejano Music Awards, where Selena won Female Vocalist of the Year. That moment proved publicly that she belonged in a male-dominated space. With success came more pressure. Promoters sometimes told Abraham that Selena needed to tone down her presence, afraid she would overshadow male performers. The schedule became brutal, with hundreds of shows a year. Selena missed out on a normal teenage life and lived instead on highways and stages. By the late 1980s, her popularity exploded. Crowds grew larger and more intense. Fans, especially young women, finally saw someone like themselves on stage. Still, every step forward came with resistance. Experiments with English-language music faced backlash, forcing the family to step back temporarily. Survival always came before dreams. In 1989, everything changed again when EMI Latin showed interest. Selena's career moved into a larger world, but the family remained deeply involved. Success continued to bring problems like piracy, threats, and the need for security. Selena also stepped into business, opening boutiques and learning hard lessons about trust. In 1994, her album Amor Prohibido became a massive success, breaking records and redefining Tejano music despite censorship and resistance. By the time the album reached #1 and stayed there for years, Selena had become far more than a singer. She was a symbol of perseverance, sacrifice, and resilience. Her story was built on struggle, family pressure, love, and loss. And decades later, when Chris Perez finally spoke, it reminded the world that behind the success was a young woman who carried an enormous weight, and a love story shaped by secrecy, fear, and a pain that never truly faded. EMI Latin later stated that after the album was released, it shipped nearly 2 million units in the United States alone. It was selling faster than established rivals like La Mafia, which shocked many people in the industry. At the same time, something else was happening beneath the surface. An underground system formed almost naturally. Mixtapes were passed from hand to hand, and bootleg copies flooded border towns. The number of illegal copies was said to reach around 100,000. This happened because when people are told they should not listen to something, it often makes them want it even more. The restrictions only added fuel to the fire. Even the small creative risks on the album sent strong messages. In one track, Selena sampled Back on the Chain Gang by the Pretenders. That decision nearly caused a serious problem that could have stopped the album from being released. At the last moment, Chrissie Hynde approved the lyrics on March 20, 1994, just in time to avoid disaster. Selena was only 23 years old, yet she had already become the top-selling artist in Tejano music. Later reports connected her 1994 royalties to around $4 million. That number quietly told the industry something it was not ready to admit. Selena was not a small-market artist. She was a powerful force. The title track, Amor Prohibido, caught attention far beyond the charts. When it was released on April 13, 1994, people immediately began debating its meaning. The story behind the song sounded like something pulled from the past. It was inspired by love letters linked to Selena's great-grandmother, involving a maid and the man she loved in the 1920s in Nueva Rosita, Mexico. The lyrics spoke about forbidden love and social class boundaries. Some listeners also interpreted it as a same-sex love story, which made the song feel even more controversial to people who wanted everything to stay traditional and controlled. That tension did not stay in theory. It spilled into real life. At a concert in Monterrey on June 18, protests erupted. Around 5,000 fans became so angry over claims of moral decline tied to Selena's music that they began throwing bottles at police officers. 12 officers were injured during the chaos. Yet the backlash did not slow the song down. Instead, it pushed it further into everyday life. More people played it in their cars, in their homes, late at night, and at parties. By August, sales in the United States alone reached 1 million copies, earning the song platinum status. It topped Billboard's Hot Latin Songs chart for 9 weeks starting June 11, 1994, and ended the year as the #1 Latin single with 420,000 certified units. Inside Selena's own circle, fear came first. Abraham Quintanilla worried the song would bring attention they could not control. But then the fan mail started arriving, nearly 2,000 letters each week. The message was clear. People did not just enjoy the song. They felt understood by it. Amor Prohibido had been recorded on September 17, 1993. During the San Antonio sessions, Selena added a small "Oh Baby" ad-lib that gave the song extra emotion. Chris Perez later said he noticed it immediately. By 1995, awards followed the success. The song won Tejano Music Awards for Single of the Year and Record of the Year and also received a Lo Nuestro Award for Regional Mexican Song. Even the protests had an unexpected effect. They increased visibility and pushed an estimated 20,000 additional ticket sales in the region. It became clear that controversy itself could work like advertising. Then came the night that lifted Selena beyond charts and awards. On February 26, 1994, she performed at the Houston Astrodome in front of 64,405 fans. This broke Elvis Presley's 1956 attendance record of 26,000 for a Latin act. It also happened to be her 23rd birthday weekend. The stadium was packed, the energy was high, and the show was already in full motion when something went wrong. At 9:47 p.m., a power surge caused a blackout that lasted about 20 minutes. The massive lights shut off, and more than 60,000 people screamed. Situations like that can quickly turn dangerous. Selena did not panic. She grabbed a flashlight, joked with the crowd in Spanish, and began singing calmly without music, holding the room together with her voice alone. Backup generators failed because overloaded circuits could not support new laser effects that had cost around $50,000. Instead of freezing, she treated the blackout like a challenge and passed it in front of everyone. When the power finally returned, she restarted with a more prohibido and extended the show into a 2.5-hour performance. Reports later linked the Univision broadcast to about 5 million viewers. Billboard credited her calm control for preventing injuries, even with fire safety warnings looming. That night earned around $750,000 and confirmed her status as Tejano Music's biggest live performer. It surpassed her 1993 Astrodome earnings and set the stage for an even larger finale in 1995. By 1995, Selena was also breaking barriers in spaces that had never been designed for her. On February 16, she won a Grammy for Best Mexican-American Album for Live from 1994, becoming the first Tejano woman to win in that category. She beat 10 male competitors during the 37th Grammy Awards. The win brought pride to many and jealousy to others. Quiet rumors began circulating. Certain names were whispered, and the atmosphere grew tense. When technical problems interrupted her performance at the Tejano Music Awards on January 28, 1995, some people became suspicious. Her setup failed twice during the show, and logs later blamed loose cables. Soon after, anonymous calls reportedly reached EMI Latin, threatening blackouts at future performances. Despite the tension, Selena continued moving forward. She performed a more prohibido flawlessly and received a standing ovation from 15,000 attendees. That same night, she won 6 Tejano Music Awards, including Album of the Year. Live album sales jumped dramatically afterward, reaching around 500,000 units. The rumors and resistance only made her seem stronger, especially as people sensed she was preparing for an English-language crossover that traditionalists feared. At the same time, Selena was shaping her image herself. During her June 1994 promotional tour, she wore bodysuits she designed personally, decorated with Swarovski crystals that cost around $2,000 each. Her look blended Tejano tradition with pop glamour and quickly became recognizable. Then came a moment the media refused to forget. On July 15, during a live Univision taping in Miami, a zipper broke mid-performance. For about 45 seconds, her outfit opened on live television before a crew member rushed in with a jacket. Nearly 2 million viewers saw it happen. The next day, newspapers highlighted the incident, and record sales spiked. Abraham was furious and banned that outfit style, demanding reinforced designs going forward. Selena returned to work anyway, sewing dozens of new outfits herself and adding metal clasps. The incident increased single sales in Florida by about 40%. By 1995, replicas of her redesigned outfits sold widely, turning a mistake into a major merchandise success. While the public focused on her image and music, her business ventures were expanding. By late 1994, her boutiques in Corpus Christi were doing well, earning close to $1 million a year and employing many people. But behind the scenes, serious problems were growing. Yolanda Soldivo, the fan club president and boutique manager, was accused of stealing money. Checks were forged, funds were taken from both the fan club and the boutiques, and unpaid bills began appearing. The amount stolen was estimated at over $60,000. Fans complained about missing benefits, and Abraham started investigating after repeated complaints. When confronted, Yolanda failed to give clear answers. Selena fired her in March 1995, but by then the situation had already become dangerous. At the same time, pressure from the music industry increased. Selena was working on her English-language album, Dreaming of You, which was meant to introduce her to a global pop audience. Recording sessions in Los Angeles were intense. Producers pushed her to change her sound to fit American pop standards. Long hours and constant demands created stress. Arguments broke out when she resisted changes that felt inauthentic. One disagreement reportedly delayed recording for an entire week. Selena felt torn between meeting expectations and staying true to herself. The album was only half finished when she was killed in March 1995, leaving behind both an unfinished dream and a legacy that continues to grow. And when everything finally came together, it arrived with overwhelming force. Even in the middle of chaos, Selena kept moving. She continued touring, continued showing up for fans, and continued turning moments that could have broken most people into memories others would never forget. Her 1994 Budweiser America tour reportedly sold more than 300,000 tickets and crossed into 10 different US states. The schedule was exhausting, but she never stopped giving everything she had. One incident during an El Paso border crossing showed exactly who she was. Officials delayed the band and fans for hours over paperwork issues, leaving people stranded overnight. Tempers rose, frustration spread, and the situation could have turned ugly. Instead, Selena stepped forward and began singing without music, calming the crowd and transforming tension into something warm and human. Border waits were already known to be long and harsh, sometimes lasting more than 90 minutes, but she made people feel seen even when the system failed them. She also knew how to handle conflict without adding fuel to the fire. In 1994, Tejano legend Laura Canals accused Selena of stealing songwriters, and the story quickly exploded in the media. Fans took sides almost immediately, because public feuds are easy entertainment when you are not the one being hurt. Selena refused to fight publicly. Instead, she invited Canals to collaborate on a duet. The song became a hit, and the narrative flipped from rivalry to respect. Selena once again showed she could turn noise into momentum instead of destruction. She was equally careful with her image and money, even when tempting offers came her way. Amor Prohibido reached number 29 on the Billboard 200 in 1994, something executives did not expect from a Tejano artist. The album stayed on the charts for months, and singles like Beady Beady Bom Bom dominated Latin radio. Around this time, she reportedly turned down a $1 million underwear endorsement, saying it did not feel true to who she was. That decision impressed many people because it showed she was thinking long-term, not just chasing fast money. Amor Prohibido became the first Tejano album to reach number 1 on the Billboard Top Latin Albums chart. It spent 20 weeks at the top and 98 weeks in the top 5, pushing the entire genre forward in a way no one could ignore. Behind the success on stage, her personal life was filled with secrecy. Selena met Chris Perez in 1989 when he joined Los Dinos as the lead guitarist. He was 20, she was 18, and the connection was immediate. But Abraham Quintanilla controlled everything and believed relationships would distract from the family's goals. Dating was forbidden. So Selena and Chris hid their relationship. They met quietly, shared moments in corners, and even kissed in the tour bus bathroom. When Abraham discovered the relationship in 1990, he fired Chris and called him a cancer to the family. Chris was devastated, but the two refused to let go. They stayed connected through phone calls, notes, and promises whispered through distance. That secret love lasted 2 years until they realized hiding forever was impossible. On April 2, 1992, Selena went to Chris's hotel room early in the morning and told him they were getting married immediately. They drove to a courthouse in Corpus Christi with 2 witnesses. The ceremony took less than 10 minutes. Then they hid it. When Abraham found out days later, he refused to speak to them for a month. Selena hid love letters inside her guitar case. Over time, the marriage forced a reluctant acceptance, but the tension never fully disappeared. Even their honeymoon felt like a mission, with secret trips squeezed between tour dates and hidden hotels. When Abraham learned about a private reception he was not invited to, he refused to attend. Selena broke down emotionally and even considered divorce at one point. Living 2 lives like that slowly wears a person down, but they kept going anyway. Chris also influenced Selena's music. He brought more rock energy into her sound, especially on Amor Prohibido. You can hear it clearly in tracks where electric guitar cuts through the traditional Tejano style. Abraham worried about how this would affect her image, and his response was more control. Reports later described hidden microphones in dressing rooms and people watching them closely on tour to catch signs of intimacy. Instead of stopping them, it only made Selena and Chris more protective of what they shared. Another pressure entered their lives quietly. In 1994, Selena and Chris reportedly began trying for a baby, but the schedule never slowed down. There was a miscarriage scare linked to exhaustion, and doctors warned her to rest. The experience brought them closer, but it also reminded them how fragile everything was, especially with the pressure of her English crossover growing heavier every day. Then the betrayal that had been hiding in plain sight finally exploded. By January 1995, angry calls and letters from fans flooded in about fan club memberships that never delivered promised items. Bills at Selena's boutiques went unpaid. Employees noticed money missing. Abraham's investigation pointed directly to Yolanda Soldivo. The amount stolen stayed above $60,000. Selena confronted Yolanda in early March, heartbroken and confused. During one tense moment, Yolanda reportedly threatened suicide, which frightened Selena and raised the danger instantly. Selena fired her, but Yolanda did not disappear. She became more desperate. On March 31, 1995, Selena met Yolanda at a Days Inn in Corpus Christi to retrieve financial records and settle the situation. Yolanda had reportedly purchased a .38 Taurus revolver after being fired. What happened next was swift and horrifying. Selena was shot once in the back at close range. The bullet caused massive internal bleeding. Even after being shot, Selena ran nearly 400 yards to the hotel lobby, screaming for help and telling staff to call 911. Witnesses said she warned them to lock the door because Yolanda was going to shoot her again. She collapsed at the front desk, gave the room number, and named Yolanda as the shooter before losing consciousness. Selena was rushed to Memorial Medical Center and pronounced dead at 1:05 p.m. The speed of it left everyone stunned. One moment she was trying to fix a business problem. The next moment she was gone. Outside, the aftermath unfolded live for the world to see. Yolanda barricaded herself inside a red pickup truck in the hotel parking lot with a gun to her head. The standoff lasted more than 9 hours and was broadcast on television. Negotiators tried to calm her as she cried and repeated that she was sorry but refused to surrender. Eventually, she did, but the damage was already permanent. The trial later that year became a media storm. Fans packed the courthouse, emotions ran high, and chaos broke out at times. Yolanda was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison, with parole eligibility beginning in 2025. The case revealed disturbing details about obsession and control, leaving a community feeling betrayed by someone who had been trusted. After Selena's death, her absence only made her presence grow stronger. Dreaming of You was released on July 18, 1995. In its first week, it sold more than 331,000 copies in the United States. On its first day alone, it sold 175,000 copies, setting a record for a female artist at the time. On August 5, 1995, it debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, becoming the first mostly Spanish-language album to do so. I Could Fall in Love became a massive radio hit, reaching number 1 on Hot Latin Songs and breaking into the top 20 of the Hot 100 airplay chart. New listeners continued discovering her even after she was gone. Texas honored her quickly. Just 2 weeks after her death, Governor George W. Bush declared April 16, her birthday, as Selena Day in Texas. Years later, in 2012, the United States Postal Service released a Selena Forever stamp on April 16 as part of its Music Icons series. Her image traveled across the country on everyday mail, quietly reminding people that she was no longer just regional history. Her funeral showed the scale of her impact. On April 3, 1995, her body lay in a closed casket at Bayfront Plaza Auditorium in Corpus Christi, surrounded by 5,000 white roses. Fans lined up as early as 4 in the morning. By 9 a.m., the line stretched nearly a mile. Almost 60,000 people passed by before the doors closed that night. Emotions ran so high that rumors spread the coffin was empty, forcing the family to open it to prove she was inside. People fainted, cried, and collapsed from grief. It became one of the largest public mourning events in U.S. music history. For many fans, Selena was not just a singer. She was proof that someone like them could rise. Decades later, the story continued. In March 2025, Chris Perez, then 56, spoke more openly than ever in interviews connected to a Netflix documentary about Selena's legacy. He admitted he still hears Selena's voice when making major decisions and said he cannot watch scenes showing her death because the pain remains too deep even after 30 years. In November 2025, a People magazine feature revealed that Selena's handwritten love letters are his most treasured possessions. He said her death split his life into two parts, before and after, and he still turns to those letters for strength. The final legal chapter returned in March 2025, when the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles denied Yolanda Saldivar's request for parole. The board cited the nature of the crime and the planning involved, saying she still posed a threat to public safety. Selena's family and Chris Perez released a joint statement that same day, saying they were grateful for the decision and asking people to focus on Selena's love, music, and legacy rather than the tragedy that took her life.